Welcome back to MGD 111 Photoshop 1. We're going to continue looking at our selection tools. Today we're going to look at the what we call the single row and the single column marquee tools. You'll find those under the rectangle marquee or the elliptical marquee. And what they do, basically, if I just click somewhere, it looks like it's just creating a line here. But if we zoom way in on it, let's do Command plus a bunch of times. You'll see it's just selecting a single row of pixels. It's exactly 1 pixel wide, no taller, no shorter, and it goes all the way across. Same thing if we were to use the single column. If we click on it here and I hold down the Shift key, you'll see it selects a single column of pixels. Now, these aren't tools that you're going to use very often. A lot of times you end up using these when you have an image and there's some sort of flaw in the data, where there's just some sort of anomaly, a miscolored row of pixels or some sort of missing data or something. So it's a way for you to just isolate a particular selection. It's also good if you want to draw lines across your picture. If we make some sort of adjustment here, let's brightness contrast, let's make it really dark. And if I click OK and I deselect, you'll see that it filled in those spaces with some additional color there. They're not exactly the most useful selection tools, but it is nice to have them handy. By the way, has anybody wondered why we call these the marquee tools? Well, I'm going to use the rectangular marquee here. As you can see, when we highlight something, it has this moving dotted line around it. Now, the reason it does that is if it's a static dotted line, it can be hard to see. So by making it move, it makes it a little more visible. You'd be surprised how often you try to outline something and you lose track of where your line is. But if you think about a theater marquee, you go to the movie and there's some big summer blockbuster playing, they might have lights that kind of march around. That's why they call it the marquee tool. Another term you may hear, it's one of my favorite things in all of Photoshop, we call these the marching ants. So the marquee tools use those particular things. So again, the single row and single column are not exactly the most useful tools, but just know how they work. And by the way, they will not work with the feather options. Let me just go to single row marquee here. If I were to click on, say, feather of 3 pixels, and I try to click on it, I'm going to get this warning: no pixels of more than 50% selected. Selection edges will not be visible. What that means is the pixels that we're trying to feather exceed the total of a single row of pixels, if that makes sense. You'll get this warning from time to time when you try to use certain selection tools, by the way. It just means that you need to make some sort of adjustment to how you're using the tool, what settings you're using on the tool, etc. So, just to recap, the feather option is a good thing to use with our rectangle or our elliptical, but it does not work with the single row or single column. So, enjoy.